Welcome back, everybody. So one of our live trials of the day is going to be out of Iowa, and it is the Zachary Koehn case, the man who faces first-degree murder and child endangerment charges in connection with the death of his 4-month-old son named Sterling. This is a really gruesome and horrible and horrifying case, but one of the interesting legal aspects is what is his defense. And what we're getting a glimmer of is that he may be saying, well, I thought that Sterling's mother, and this is Cheyenne Harris, who's 20 years old, and she has been charged with murder and child endangerment as well, will be tried at a separate date, that I thought she was taking care of Sterling. But really, what did she suffer from? Postpartum depression. And that's where we want to focus right now, on the viability of this defense, and really, what does it mean? So joining me right now, we have a very special guest, psychologist and an expert in postpartum depression, Wendy Dickinson. Wendy, great to have you here on Law and Crime.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, I want to just start off by asking you, from a general perspective, when you read the details of this case, was it something that was really unique? You never seen anything like this before? Or are we just shedding light on something that happens across the country constantly?
It's a great question. I think that, the particular circumstances of this case are pretty extreme. So we don't see cases like this very often. But the idea that women struggle with postpartum psychosis is a real thing. If you think about mental health issues on a continuum, women that have kind of what we would call baby blues on one end, that's about 50% of the population. I would say there's about 10 to 15% that struggle with a more significant form of depression or anxiety. And then over on the other end of the continuum, we're looking at 0.1% of women who struggle with postpartum psychosis.
What causes it? What exactly happens to somebody in this state?
Yeah, it's a good question. So it's basically a biochemical response to the pregnancy and the hormonal changes that happen. So for women who are already predisposed to some kind of mental health issue, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolar, they're going to be more likely to experience these symptoms. But it's basically when the hormones and everything are all stirred up, your body responds on a biochemical level and creates these states of transient psychosis. And
what is the view towards the baby? In other words, if we're to believe that Cheyenne Harris did suffer from postpartum depression, is it, I don't want to take care of Sterling, I hate Sterling? I mean, or I want to focus on me now. I just carried a baby for 9 months. Now I want to focus on me. I mean, I don't know. I'm asking just out of curiosity how this works.
Sure. So they've found in doing research, we've identified 5 different reasons that women would look to harm or kill their baby. The first one is a sense of altruism, like the world is a bad place and I'm actually rescuing the baby from this horrible place. The second one is acute psychosis, where basically the behavior doesn't make any sense. The third one is maltreatment. It's a fatal maltreatment, and usually the anticipated outcome isn't death. They're not trying to kill them. It's just a byproduct of their inability to care for the baby. The fourth one is that the child is unwanted and seen as a hindrance. And then the fifth, and it's very uncommon, but is that the mom would actually kill the baby to inflict some emotional pain on the father. So it could be any one of those 5.
Based upon the facts that you saw of this case, do you think it falls into any of those categories? Maybe, like you said, the maltreatment one.
It absolutely could. I mean, the thing with the psychosis is that it's not difficult to identify. So people around this young mom would have seen her having delusions of some kind, hallucinations, either visual or auditory, or she would have had grossly disorganized behavior. For example, things that she could normally do, such as cook dinner. She might pull all the pots and pans out of the cabinet and all the spices and spread them all over because it's her ability to stay organized and focused is really impaired. So other people around her would have noticed if there was some kind of psychosis going on.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that, because he's claiming, hey, listen, she was supposed to take care of the baby, but now she suffered from postpartum depression. So how much can we say it was out of his hands or not, right? I mean, based upon what you said, it seems like he would have seen signs that something was wrong.
It's very uncommon for people in the mom's community not to notice that there's something happening. Usually when they come into our office, they're brought in by a partner or a family member, and the person's really actually pretty unnerved by what's going on, because they're saying things like, this isn't her, this isn't how she normally acts, this was really weird, she said she saw something in the room that the rest of us didn't see. So it's a pretty clear pattern of symptoms. I would be surprised if he was dialed in and in the environment paying attention and didn't notice any kind of psychosis.
Yeah, it's an interesting defense. We're going to have to see which way it ultimately goes and how they make that happen. Wendy, thank you so much for coming on, and we maybe would love to have you back if that defense becomes in play.
I'd love to do it. Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, a lot more to discuss and a lot of trials.